Are we live? Welcome to another edition of Too Early for This podcast. It's your host, your moderator, the host with the most. I do not brag or boast, and I'm coming to you guys live from coast to coast. It's your boy. I'm Chris the Down One episode, I believe episode 8. Or yeah, it's definitely episode 8. It can't be episode 9. So we're gonna get into today's topic. We're gonna get into Math Hoffa uh, and his podcast Breaking Up. Now, I'm basically giving you guys what's going on, word on the street wise, with Matt Hoffa's podcast. The members have broke up, and it's basically uh, there's a division and some disagreement between Matt Hoffa, Space Ghost, as well as EXO and Hennessy. I think no, his name ain't Hennessy. It's oh shoot, I forgot that beer name. Shoot, I used to drink that beer all the time back in the day. Heineken. Name's Heineken. All right. So basically, the issue with these guys and the disagreement that they had, basically what word on the street is, a lot of people are assuming it has to do about money. A lot of people are also assuming it has more to do with control, um, having an investment interest in Math Hoffa's podcast. A lot of people also are pocket watching. A lot of people feel like Math Hoffa is about to sign a contract with Revolt, and this contract is, and this is just an estimate. This is pretty much hearsay gossip. It's going to be upwards in the $2 million range. And once the other members grab a hold of that information, therein lies disagreement. Now, basically, if been living under a rock, from their perspective, EXO and Hennessy, I don't know why I keep calling him I don't forgot Heineken, Mav Hoffa, Heineken, and Space Ghost. Here's their and they're saying, and when you sit back and listen to and dissect their conversations and their issues with Mav Hoffa, obviously there's a disagreement with Mav Hoffa, his business practices, but but it's like different reasons why they're no longer in the podcast with Mav Hoffa. Now, from Heineken's point of view, POV, his issue with Mav Hoffa is credit. Basically credit. Now, of course, money is the factor as well, but he feels like Mav Hoffa feels like, and he said Mav Hoffa said this. Mav Hoffa didn't confirm nor deny what he was saying, but basically, coming from his perspective, he said Mav Hoffa told him that him and EXO, they are not that important, as well as Space Ghost, and they're replaceable from his standpoint. And then he went into the numbers, particularly on Math Hoffa's YouTube channel. And he talked about how Math Hoffa was hovering around 50K subscribers. And when they got involved, it done ballooned, it tripled that amount. Before we get more into it, I first like to state this. I feel like people, when they look at other people's subscription numbers on YouTube, they just think they're doing it big. Even though if you look at the analytics of Google, and Google even reported this in several articles, that the majority of your viewership are people that are not subscribed to you. If you look at your analytics, you have subscribers watching your program on YouTube, but the majority of the people that are that listen to your podcast or listen to your YouTube channel are people who are not subscribed to your YouTube channel. And Google has made articles about it. They show the analytics of a lot of successful channels that way. So it doesn't matter if you got 8,000 subscribers, 20,000 subscribers, 50,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, or even 1,000,000 subscribers. Yeah, it looks good visually. And yeah, you will get a plaque from YouTube about your numbers of people that are subscribed to your channel, but it really doesn't mean being a difference. It doesn't mean that your channel is going to be in heavy in the rotation. It doesn't mean that your channel is going to be recommended. It doesn't mean anything other than is a cosmetic point of view. But ultimately, what makes this a very successful channel, obviously, is watch time. And when you look at your analytics, or when Google look at the analytics, they don't really care that they're subscribed to you or not subscribed to you, because all watch time is created equal. It's all the same. But Heineken used this data, and he feels that, like, Math Hoffa channel was blowing up, but it didn't started glowing up until him, EXO, Space Go, as well as other people came to his channel to go on his platform and do these podcasts. And he feels like, look, you should at least give us credit in that. You're saying one thing, you're saying that we're not important to you, but at the same time, if you look at the numbers, very closely, obviously we're a lot important than what you believe to be. Look at your raw data on your YouTube channel. That's from Heineken's perspective. Now, EXO's perspective is a little vague. Is a little vast. Yeah, he's also upset at Math Hoffa because he feels like Math Hoffa don't view him as important and doesn't see the value that he's bringing to Math Hoffa channel. Obviously, he's pointing at the subscription numbers, but he's also pointing at his time in the music industry. He was an agent. He negotiated artist contracts. He got artists on a lot of music labels. And he feels like that alone should be important enough, what he's bringing to the table. Now, Math Hoffa, once again, now they're saying Math Hoffa said that they're insignificant, they're not that important, and they're replaceable. So he's looking at it that from that perspective, but he's also looking at it as disrespectful how Math Hoffa, treated them. Now, he didn't really go into full details, but I really do feel like EXO is between the two individuals, EXO and Heineken. I feel like EXO saw the potential of Math Hoffa's podcast, and he wanted to be more of a partner, to this podcast, because he knew this podcast was going places and it was really blowing up. All right. And I'm pretty sure he has indicated that to Heineken. But if you listen, pay attention to what the issues with them and Math Hoffa, obviously it's the respect factor that Math Hoffa feels like they don't bring nothing to the table. But then they're also looking at Google Analytics. That's more of Heineken's expertise. He's more looking into that than EXO. But EXO looking at it as, this podcast is going to blow up. I need to own a piece of this podcast because this podcast is going places. And he had connections in the music industry. And he was also leaning into, but he didn't plunge in, saying that a lot of the guests that Math Hoffa got on that show, it was because of him. So he's looking at it as, look, we were important into this as well. Now, Space Ghost, from his perspective, is more so about the money. he's saying that Math Hoffa never paid him. He said that Math Hoffa promised him a lot of things that ultimately he reneged on. But overall, he's upset with Math Hoffa because of he didn't get paid for a lot of things that he did. Now, for those who've been living under a rock and they don't know who Space Ghost is, Space Ghost is this engineering wizard that did the sound, did the video, did the editing. And I want to say this, and a lot of people will probably won't get this, and the people that don't get this are on the outside looking in. If you got someone, if you're a content provider and you got someone that's willing to engineer your sound and your footage, your video footage, not only record it, but to edit it, sit there in a room and cut out all the dead video and clip all that stuff together. Then you're putting effects into it. You're doing this, that, and the third with the footage to make it stand out differently than anyone else's content on YouTube. That is an extraordinary job if you know how to do that. Okay, that's one of the reasons why Joe Budden is not going to let Parks go. Park is the brilliant mind behind Joe Budden when it comes to his sound, when it comes to the studio, when it comes to the visuals. He puts all that stuff together. Not anybody can do this. Okay, not anybody can do this. A select few can do this very extraordinary and beautifully and amazing. But the rest of us, we can get by off of it. And Space Ghost was one of those type of people. So he's looking at it from the perspective, okay, you think I'm not important. You think I don't bring nothing to the table. You wouldn't be where you are today if it wasn't for my behind the scenes magic. Plus, after listening to Space Ghost and I watched their podcast, it was EXO, Heineken, and Space Ghost and Shampoo. He liked to refer to himself as Pooh. They were talking about their issues with Math Hoffa. I would like to say this. The way how that presentation was set up, it was like it was mixed all over the place. It would have been nice if you're going to talk about Math Hoffa, you should do a segment about Math Hoffa. And if you want to talk about other things, you do segments about those other things. You got to separate the things. And they were in and out of Math Hoffa's the situation that they had with Math Hoffa, and they talk about the history that they had with Math Hoffa. I felt like after watching it, it was just like a mixed bag of emotions. And it also felt like a mixed bag of opportunities that if they would do it all over again, they would definitely do things differently. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But Space Ghost, after listening to his disagreements with Math Hoffa, I came to the conclusion that Space Ghost wanted to not only he didn't mind the behind the scenes work, he didn't mind doing that, but he also wanted to be in front of the camera. He wanted to be an interviewer. He wanted not to be a main attraction, but one of the guys that were in the bar seats in the conversation, and maybe occasionally had questions for the people that they bring in to interview. I don't think he's great at it. I think he's not special at it. I think he's average at it. But I felt like Math Hoffa, if you had to choose between Space Ghost and Math Hoffa, obviously Math Hoffa's presentation was extraordinary and amazing than Space Ghost. I feel like in the podcasting world, there's only a select few of hosts that can keep people glued to listen to an hour or an hour, 30-minute podcast or a 2-hour podcast. You have to bring more to the table than to say things to either irritate your listeners or, galvanize your listeners, keep your listeners listening to your presentation. There's more to it. I think when Math Hoffa is, when he does his podcast, it's just something special about him. and you just can't find this anywhere. And that's one of the reasons why Joe Budden is amazing and extraordinary. No matter what his former colleagues say about Joe Budden is very talented. Okay, he's extremely bright and extremely talented. Now, if you want to talk about the person, if you want to talk about how he treats people, okay, that's one thing. But if you separate Joe Budden's talent from the individual Joe Budden, you have to confess and admit that Joe Budden is an extraordinary individual with his talent. All right. How to carry a conversation, how to keep people involved in the conversation, and have the listeners pay attention to the conversation. Not a lot of people can do that. All right. So that's what Space Ghost issues with Mav Hoffa. Now, all four of them were talking on this show, on this video about their issues with Mav Hoffa. If I have time, I will give you guys the links in the comment section of the videos that I watched. I also watched Queen's Flip and Mav Hoffa on an IG Live. I also watched that on YouTube as well. Mav Hoffa was saying that he was trying to, he was paying, he was willing to pay Space Ghost, but Space Ghost didn't want to accept the money. And he was wondering why Space Ghost wouldn't accept the money. And I have an answer to that, Mav Hoffa, because he knew the potential of what this podcast can ultimately become. He's basically saying he's cashing in the money that you owe him, and he's putting that to the side and gambling. And it's not a huge gamble, but he wants to be in the driving seat when this podcast is picked up by a network. You know, he knew that what this podcast can ultimately become. All right. And I think EXO saw that. I think Heineken saw that from the perspective from EXO. But these guys wanted an investment. Now, Mav Hoffa said something. They want to invest into this podcast, okay? But Mav Hoffa said something very, very interesting. He said on that IG Live when he with Queen's Flip, he said, when he was talking to, I don't know if he was talking to Heineken. I think it was either Heineken or Space Ghost. He was saying, yeah, this in the beginning phases of this podcast. And he was saying like, yeah, what if this podcast, crash and burn? Meaning like, what if we do all this work and ultimately no one likes the podcast? Then what do I do then? And Space Ghost said, well, you'll be the one holding the bag. And I felt like Mav Hoffa never forgot about that conversation with Space Ghost, because Space Ghost basically said that if this thing, he does not have faith in it, he was not going to invest in it. He'll invest his time, but only at a certain point. But he was not going to be a real strong investor and a believer in this. And privately, that ticked off Mav Hoffa. When he said that, he knew, okay, so you don't have no faith in this podcast. You don't mind, utilizing your time and your resources and your talent on this podcast, but you're not going to be 100% committed into this podcast. And I felt like that really ticked off Mav Hoffa. I think Heineken, I just think with Heineken and EXO, Mav Hoffa, they're talking about they're doing their own podcast and this, that, and the third. Folks, do y'all realize when y'all subscribe to their channel, they have multiple videos, before this incident? So they've been low-key, secretly trying to recreate the magic with doing a podcast on their own. Because, Mav Hoffa sort of gave them guys the blueprint and sort of gave those guys the resources as far as other guests that they could not get on their podcast. I'm pretty sure XO has a lot of people in the music industry that would love to sit down and talk to him on his podcast. But to get those top tier people like a Joe Budden or a Tony Yayo or Derrick Rose, it'll have been extraordinarily difficult for Heineken and XO to get that top tier talent. And they were secretly low key doing their own podcast behind Math Hoffa's back. Now, Math Hoffa said that these guys signed a contract and they violated their contract by even having a podcast. And after listening to all that, I was saying to myself, before I get into that, let me finish off. I just felt like these four individuals, if they had, I feel like there's enough blame for everybody. All right, Heineken, there's blame for you, my friend, because you never directly talked to Mav Hoffa about your concerns and about you wanting to have a part. You wanted to become a partner in this train. And so I feel like there's blame on your end as well. You had all of these ambitions, and it would have been, I felt like it would have been extraordinary if you guys, after spending your time under Math Hoffa and his podcast, you walk up to Math Hoffa and say, "Hey, look, we're thinking about doing our own 2-man podcast. Could we do it under your YouTube channel?" I don't think Math Hoffa would have had an issue with them doing that. Similar to what Adam 22 is doing on No Jumper. He's got all these different people doing their own thing, having their own shows, having their own podcast under the umbrella of Adam 22's YouTube channel. Okay, so Adam 22 is saying, look, if y'all believe y'all can do this, I'm going to give you the platform and the resources to do that. I think Math Hoffa would have done the exact same thing and allowed those two cats to have their own podcast, but it will be affiliated to on Math Hoffa's YouTube channel. Okay, I don't think Math Hoffa would have had an issue with it if they would have played it straight up and just been real with them. I felt like from Math Hoffa's perspective, he felt they was kind of flaky and phony about it by low-key having your own podcast and not even telling him about it, which he already knew. And I just felt like if they would have been straight up front with Math Hoffa, I don't think Math Hoffa would have had an issue or a problem with it. All right. So Space Ghost issue, and this is on the outside looking in, I feel like Space Ghost, the reason why he had issues with Math Hoffa is because, unfortunately, Space Ghost didn't come forward and told Math Hoffa the rest of his dream. Plus, Space Ghost wasn't really serious about Math Hoffa. He wasn't thinking that this thing was going to blow up to where it's looking like right now. I felt like Space Ghost could have, if he would have, I felt like where he fell off with Math Hoffa, he didn't believe in the dream Math Hoffa had. All right, he didn't mind sitting next to him and doing this for him, doing that for him, but overall, I felt like that sort of ticked off Math Hoffa. Plus, he was trying, and Math Hoffa even indicated it, and he was trying to, even though, and the reason why he didn't want the money is because he saw where this could ultimately become. So that's their issues. And I feel like Math Hoffa needs some blame in this as well, because as a leader, you have to galvanize your team. All right. if Math Hoffa, I felt like Math Hoffa, you know, was sort of upset about the report of him getting $2 million from Revolt, even though that deal hasn't come to fruition. And I feel like one of the reasons is not, we haven't heard about it yet, is because of the issue about the podcast breaking up. I think P. Diddy, Sean Puffy Combs, and Mav Hoffa have a great business relationship, and they're probably putting the announcement on ice. But when everything cools down and all said and done, they're gonna turn it up and say Mav Hoffa is with Revolt. All right, so nothing really has changed. So, but I do feel like they all deserve some form of credit on where this ultimately becomes. Now, I don't think this is going to linger on like Rory and Mal versus Joe Budden. We talked about that ad nauseum on this channel as well as my podcast channel. And the reason why I don't think it's going to carry on is at the end of the day, even though they're broke up and they're no longer a podcast together, Mav Hoffa is still going to make his bread. He's still going to have his podcast, and his podcast is going to flourish. His podcast is extraordinary. It's going to blow up. I feel like when it comes to Heineken and EXO and Space Ghost, they're going to still do this podcast. I don't think it's going to draw the same numbers as Mav Hoffa's podcast, but they'll fit in. They'll fit in a nice niche, particularly in the hip hop culture. I think they're going to have some good people to interview, and life is going to go on with them. I don't think they're going to get the same type of volume when it comes to subscribers and views and success like they did with Mav Hoffa. And I watched a couple of their shows. Nothing really stands out. And to be perfectly honest with you, whenever I watch their show, it seems like it's missing something. It's missing flair. It's missing pizzazz. It's missing talent. Well, not with entertainment. And none of those cats can replace a Mav Hoffa. Now, I think Mav Hoffa can replace those cats. He can just find some new cats, and they can all be sitting in the barbershop, and it's just be business as usual. They won't miss a beat, and life will go on. But I feel like with Space Ghost, Heineken, and EXO, they can't find another Mav Hoffa. Mav Hoffas and the Joe Buttons and the Noriegas, they don't grow on trees, folks. They're hard to be cloned or imitated. So it's going to be extremely difficult for them to find a Mav Hoffa. But I think Mav Hoffa, it'll be easy for him to find replacements for those three individuals. But life is going to go on. They're going to do their numbers. I don't think they're going to do more numbers than Mav Hoffa. I don't think they're going to do more numbers. I think they're going to be almost about the same like Rory and Mal. But all of this stuff reminds me of the issues Rory and Mal had with Joe Budden, I Am Podcast, Fred Taylor, and Crowder with their issues with Brandon Marshall. I've heard now word around the campfire is Adam 22 is having issues with some of his podcast members. But let's talk more so about Rory and Mal. I felt like Rory and Mal overall found out how important and significant they were, not only to Joe Budden, but to the rest of the world. I told you guys on a video that what really divided them was when Joe Budden turned down that Spotify deal. But to Joe Budden's eyes, that was chicken feed. He felt like he could have gotten a bigger deal, a better deal, which he did. But to Rory and Mal, that's a lot of money. And then that's when the tidal wave came down, and now Rory and Mal are, having issues with Joe Budden. Now they'll sit up there and tell you it wasn't about the money. It was the principle. Joe Budden disrespecting us, this, that, and the third, yada, yada, yada. Okay. But I felt like the biggest issue why these three individuals are no longer together was the money. And they proved it when they talked about the money. They talk about this huge deal that they signed with Kevin Durant's group, and it's the upwards of a $10 million contract. And even DJ Academics, I had concerns about that deal, but DJ Academics had real concerns about this deal. And for someone that just signed a $10 million contract with Kevin Durant's media group, they're still bitter at Joe Budden. Now, Maul is talking about, Joe Budden owes him money and he's spent all his money at the strip club and this, that, and the third. And Roy is just a hanger on. But I always told you guys, and same thing goes with the I Am Athlete podcast. Fred Taylor and Shannon. I think his name's Shannon Fry. I might be wrong. No, it's not Shannon Fry. It's I forgot the football player. I do apologize. They all broke up, as well as the cat that does NFL for the ESPN. I can't think of his name right now. He was a safety for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They all broke up, and now they formed the Pivot podcast. And they said they had concerns with Brandon Marshall. And when Brandon Marshall was talking about it, when they were talking about it, you sort of piece the truths together. Come to find out that these guys wanted an investment, an interest in I Am Athlete podcast now, but they had an opportunity to become partners, to become owners of the I Am Athlete podcast when the I Am Athlete podcast was worth nothing. So basically, these guys wanted Brandon Marshall to gamble his money and see what this thing does. And then now, once this thing is popping and blowing up, now they want an interest in it. Now they want an investment in it, and it's too late by that point. You should have invested in this podcast earlier. Same thing goes with Rory and Maul. Rory and Maul was happy to be in just along for the ride. They never once indicated to Joe Budden and we wanted to become partners of this podcast. Now, people are going to say, well, they were partners of this podcast. No, not in the beginning. Once this podcast started blowing up, and then they saw that, wait, man, whoa, we got a hit on our hands. We need to hurry up and see if we can become partners. We can, buy some of the stock of this podcast, and it's not working. Because the same thing about I Am Athlete podcast and the same thing like Joe Budden podcast, low key, these guys, the guys that are bitter and they done moved on and doing their own thing, they wanted Joe Budden and Brandon Marshall to take the hits if the hits are coming. If this becomes a flop, it'll be on Joe Budden's watch. It'll be Joe Budden's money that ultimately he loses if this turns into a flop. This will be Brandon Marshall's money if it turns out to be a flop. But when this thing become a huge hit, now all of a sudden you want to come in the ninth inning and play hero ball and say, hey, okay, I'm ready to become a partner. It don't work that way. You have to become a partner when it first start, when you first start talking about it. When you're starting to put things together, when you're not making no money, when it's all just a dream, all right. If you wait for it to prove itself, you won't have the capabilities to own the podcast, and that's what happened to I Am Athlete and the situation with those fellas and Brandon Marshall. And same thing happened with Rory Maul and Joe Budden. Still to this day, that's been like almost 2 years ago, and Maul is still talking about Joe Budden stole money from us, but you just signed a $10 million deal. Two things can be true. Yeah, just because I signed a $10 million deal don't mean you can steal money from me. That's not the point I'm making. The point what I'm making is, if you sign a $10 million deal, you wouldn't still be bitter about it. And if Joe Budden really took money from you, how come you haven't took Joe Budden to court? They swore up and down they was going to take Joe Budden to court, and I still haven't heard of them taking him to court. So go figure, folks. Go figure. But overall, that's what I thought about that whole situation. If I feel like if these guys can do it all over again, they would do things very different. Hugely different. But moving on, we got some more stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about so what I'm about to say, this may upset a lot of people, and it may not. Okay? But we're about to expose Kyrie Irving. So if you've been living under a rock, allow your boy to explain. Kyrie Irving tweeted, tweeted a movie that was full of hate and full of hate speech. It was anti-Semitic, Semitic. It just wasn't a good movie. Downing the Jewish community, and low key, just not looking good. Now, ever since he tweeted that, the tweet's still up. Kyrie Irving has gave zero bumps about people's concerns and criticisms about that tweet, and he's headstrong, and he's not going to delete the tweet. Now, the NBA released a statement as well as a tweet. The Brooklyn Nets, the ownership of Brooklyn Nets, and I keep forgetting his name, I do apologize, issued a statement in a tweet basically condemning what Kyrie Irving is doing. Now, a lot of people saying Kyrie Irving is promoting this movie. This is conspiracy theories. This is secret society type stuff. And this movie really coincides what's going on with Alex Jones. Even Kyrie Irving said that he's not able. He's with Sandy Hook. He's totally against what Alex Jones has said about that, but he's co-signing anything else Alex Jones is endorsing. Now, my thing of it is, and I said this on my sports channel, and this is the reason why I feel like Kyrie Irving is a fraud. Now, he went last night, he talked to the reporters. Well, basically, he talked to the reporters and didn't allow the reporters to reply back to his recent statements. But, that's neither here nor there. But basically, Kyrie Irving was very defensive with the reporters and their handling. Here's what I think. I think Kyrie Irving is a fraud. And I'm going to explain to you guys why I believe Kyrie Irving is a fraud. Because Kyrie Irving will say and do things, and he has a hidden agenda on the things that he say and does. Okay? Kyrie Irving, low key, this is not about him trying to be canceled like Kanye West. This ain't him trying to be the smartest person in the room. This isn't him having real thoughts and concerns about American history. This is more so about Kyrie Irving trying to figure out how to get away from the Brooklyn Nets. If you look at the Brooklyn Nets are underperforming. All right. And the rate this is going, the Brooklyn Nets are going to miss the playoffs unless a lot of things change before the playoffs start later on next year. Kyrie Irving is looking at this as, I'm trying to get out of this burning house. I'm trying to get out of this sinking ship. So what do I have to do, or what do I have to say to get out of this situation? Because I want my money. I'm not looking for a buyout. And the Brooklyn Nets are unwilling. They're not going to give me a buyout. Hell, from the Brooklyn Nets standpoint, when they saw me re-up on my contract, they were saying, we were shocked and puzzled and confused. Why would Kyrie Irving sign back for one more year with us after all the stuff we have been through, after all the stuff he has been through? He's talking about he wants to play at A, B, C, D. He wants to be a Laker. He had the opportunity to become a free agent and sign with the Lakers, but he wants to do it on his terms, folks. That's the point people are missing. He wants to make his money, but pick the team he wants to play for, which is the Los Angeles Lakers. If he would have opted out on that deal, the Los Angeles Lakers would have paid him a veteran minimum, probably a little bit above the veteran minimum, but he would have been playing for the Lakers. But he does not want it that way. He wants his money. He wants a max contract. And the only way he's going to get another max contract is, at that particular time, just having an amazing, extraordinary year with the Brooklyn Nets. And when the year's up, there's going to be some teams in line that's willing to give him that type of money. But Kyrie Irving has a method to his madness. He wants to get out from under Brooklyn. He wants his money, but he wants to be on a different team. That's why when he's looking at the narrative about Kanye West and how ultimately, and I don't understand a lot of people that do this. This is destroying yourself from within, destroying your reputation, destroying your credibility, stuff that you worked hard for years. You're willing to just destroy all that. And this comes from the page of Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He signed a huge deal with the Los Angeles Raiders. And the moment he got into it with the coach as well as the GM of the Las Vegas Raiders, you know what Antonio Brown did? Figured out a way how to get out of that organization by his antics. And they did. They got rid of him. He had the capabilities of he's played for a cup of coffee with the Patriots, and he found his calling. He got some of his respect back, some of his credibility back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, particularly when they won a Super Bowl that year. But Antonio Brown thought that the other teams were going to reward him on how good he was that particular year and that he's a Super Bowl champion, and it just never came to fruition. So guess what Antonio Brown did after several attempts of trying to get that big money in the NFL? He acted like a fool once again, and he got cut by, he pieced out everybody in Jet Stadium when he was a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now he's a full-time rapper, begging to come back into the NFL. But there are no takers in the NFL. You just showed out and you showed the NFL world what you're all about. No one's going to give you a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth chance. And that's what and that's what, when you look at Kanye and when you look at Kyrie Irving, you look at them and you go, so you have to act like a fool, disrespect everybody, and you have or disrespect the race, and you're willing to destroy your value, your credibility, just to leave a situation. You're willing to self-destruct, all because you don't like the situation that you're in, which, by the way, you chose to be in that situation. Kyrie Irving is a fraud, folks. And if people are real honest and truthful, Kyrie Irving is passing his prime. Kyrie Irving isn't the same player that he once was when he was a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers, when he shot the infamous shot and the Cleveland Cavaliers won a ring, not because of that shot, and set him on the path of being extraordinary. And then what did he do? He said a lot. He figured out a way how to get himself out of Cleveland. He wanted to have his own team. He got his wish. He was the leader of the Boston Celtics. Couldn't do nothing with the Boston Celtics. And the only time the Boston Celtics was successful in the Kyrie Irving era is when Kyrie Irving had an injury, and it was Tatum and Brown, as well as the other young troops of the Boston Celtics. They took that team further than Kyrie Irving ever took that team when he was a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers. He exited stage left, went to Brooklyn. First thing he did in Brooklyn was saying that we had to trim the fat. They got rid of players, all because of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving's blessing. They got rid of the coach, Chucky Atkins, all because of Kyrie Irving and the blessings of Kevin Durant. They got rid of all that talent just to get one James Harden. James Harden was only there for a cup of coffee for 1 year, and now he's with the Philadelphia 76ers. They traded him for Ben Simmons, and here we are with the Boston Celtics. You got an older Kyrie Irving that can't carry teams anymore. Still have the handle, okay? Still can make the ISO plays, but that's just about it. But, it is what it is. It just is what it is. Kyrie Irving is stealing a page from the Ye and the Antonio Brown situation. Can't beat them, join them. Kyrie Irving is going to find himself out of the league, and Kyrie Irving is going to find out that no one wants him. Because Kyrie Irving, that version of Kyrie Irving that won a title with LeBron James in Cleveland, that Kyrie Irving has been gone many moons ago. But it is what it is. Okay, guys. So, one more thing before I get up out of here. So, I'm subscribed to a lot of channels on YouTube. I like gaming. I like sports. I like, documentaries. I just like everything about YouTube. But the one thing I find myself listening to, and I'm transitioning, because normally I still love the game, but I don't like listening to people talk about gaming topics. So I'm transitioning away from podcasts that are just all about gaming, and I'm expanding my horizon with podcasts that talk about other categories, and that is sports. I have a YouTube channel that's dedicated to sports, and sometimes I talk about sports on this channel. But I just like talking about sports, and I like listening to a lot of content providers on YouTube when they have these live streams talking about the issues of sports, whether it's LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, the Golden State Warriors. The list goes on and on and on. All right. Even football. There's some football talk. Okay. And the one thing I like about listening to those rooms, because normally it's like 5 or 6 guys and they're, yelling and screaming on top of each other and, having Skip Bayless hot takes. Sometimes those rooms go out of control. Sometimes it's like a whole bunch of people yelling and screaming, but you don't understand what's all this for. Okay. So basically, there's this guy, he had, and then occasionally in the chaos, someone is so mad at the first word to come out, and well, let's bet on it. And I'm not gonna say any names. These two guys, okay, cool, we're gonna bet. So last year they bet who's gonna win the series between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers. And basically, it ultimately came down to whoever, if the Lakers win, whoever, they basically on individual games. If the Clippers win, you owe me $200. If the Lakers win, I owe you $200. Come to find out that this, they placed this bet. Come to find out that the Clippers won more games than the Lakers. Matchup wise, and when it was time to pay the bet, the individual that started this bet phenomenon didn't want to bet. Basically said it was a hypothetical bet and making up excuses, like they were talking about Kyrie Irving. If you listen to the video, they wasn't talking about that. Kyrie Irving was a topic, but Kyrie Irving wasn't in the discussion when they made this bet. Anywho, the guy owes the guy money. And now he's basically saying that he's not paying. Here's my thing. Never, ever, ever in life let your tail write a never in life let your mouth write a check that your tail won't be able to cash. It's just that simple. And when you're upset and the testosterone is flowing through the roof, the yelling and screaming matches begin, and then you start utilizing emotion as a resource. And I'll be honest with you, I've seen a lot of people make bets on YouTube, and then the one that loses in the bet, you cannot find this individual. This individual starts hopping on somebody else's live stream. We need to have a united front, content providers. If someone betted on my platform and they lost the bet, and the individual that lost the bet goes on someone else's platform like nothing didn't happen, he didn't say this bet, I feel like we need to have unity with the content providers. If someone owes money on one platform, everyone should ban this individual to ever be on anyone else's platform again. Now with this individual, he has the capabilities of becoming a member on different channels, as well as giving out shout outs, money shout outs and things of that nature. But ultimately, we have to put aside and set aside the money and look at it at the big interest is if we keep allowing people to make these bets and they're unwilling to pay up their bet, is only going to make it worse. Now, I know a lot of content providers say, well, it ain't me. I get my money. He didn't bet me or whatever. But ultimately, it will become you. So, we just need to be careful. And if someone bets somebody on a platform, the one thing you want to do is allow them to be on someone else's platform. I think we need to have a united front, and we need to ban individuals that owe content providers money, because it's hard out here in these YouTube streets. Everyone needs every penny, nickel, dime, quarter of their money. Damn, Lord have mercy. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got for today. I want to thank everyone that came. Now the numbers were real low on this live stream on Too Early for This podcast. But people did come. I really do appreciate the people that came. No one left comments. It's all good in the hood. I thought I was going to get some comments on this particular topic, but it is what it is. Rate, comment, subscribe to the channel. If you want to become a member, hit the membership button, the join membership button. You get exclusive things like bright, shiny emotes and things of that nature. Now, I've been promising you guys that I was supposed to fix those emotes, and I will, but I'm also going to fix the tiers. All right. So I'm going to have an extremely affordable tier, and then the second tier is going to be somewhat affordable. And the third tier, you're gonna have to get some moolah for this tier. All right. And I'll go in full details about this at a later time or a later date. All right. Also check out my other channels. Check out my podcast, YouTube channel, Just My Opinion Podcast. Check out my gaming channel. I'm Chris the Don Gaming. Check out that channel. Hit the notification bell, subscribe to both of them channels, as well as this channel. I'm Chris the Don One channel. Don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the notification bell on this channel as well. I'm also on iTunes, Spotify, as well as the Anchor app. Just type in I'm Chris the Don One, and you'll see I'm Chris the Don One podcast. So subscribe there if you like. I'm on Instagram as well as TikTok. You don't stop. Haven't made any content on my YouTube channel, but that's subject to change, and I will be back at it on the regular next Saturday for that podcast. So be on the lookout for that. I didn't do a podcast. I didn't do a show last week, and I think it's been almost 2 weeks since I did a show. It's just really not a lot of things to talk about. I could just talk about the same stuff I talked about on my YouTube channel, but I kind of want to make it be fresh, unique, and different. Separated from the rest. But it's all good in the hood. That's pretty much it. Like I said, hope everyone enjoys this topic. A lot of you, I thought it was going to be a lot of people in here with their thoughts and opinions. I'm just going to give people a couple of more minutes, because you never know. Somebody might want to walk in and see the title and just, type something in and tell me what they thought about it. But anyway, another thing, on this channel, a lot of people have been asking me, why you don't do no more Mr. Organic reactions and reviews? Because that topic is dying, dude. And plus it's oversaturated. Everybody is doing a reaction to Mr. Organic. Okay. Ice cream vlogs and microwave vlogs, they talk about it religiously, not only about Mr. Organic, but CJ on 32s. They talk about all those content, Molly Mall. They talk about all those car content creators, even and I can tell it's getting bad for that genre, because now they're starting to push to Cali Muscle and critique and react to the things he does. And he's only been blowing up on YouTube about the mukbangs and, rolling in food and throwing food on the ground and things of that nature, trying to become a viral sensation. But nobody ain't feeling the car content. I feel like the car content, the personalities that do car content or do their stuff around car content, I think slowly but surely it's dying off. If you look at Mr. Organic's numbers, they're dropping. If you look at Tall Guy, he's not even doing car reviews no more. He's he's a realtor, and I thought he was going to make content about about selling houses and things that or flipping houses, and just give him a few more months. He probably will religiously give us content like that. But what I'm saying is people are moving away from the car content. Now CJ on 32s, he's still doing his thing with the car content, but I feel like a lot of it's just you have to every week do better and better. I mean, you have to have a different car that you're introducing to your channel every single week, and sometimes that can be taxing. Okay, that it is what it is. But I noticed that the people that I like, when you look at the numbers, they're not doing too good. They're not doing good at all. I mean, they're still getting their views from their followers, but no new people will watch or check these guys out. And I just decided to step away from that. Now, 1000 HP Media, he had some issues with his YouTube channel, and he's pretty much moving on. He said something about he's no longer doing that stuff. Now I'm pretty sure he's going to make a video every now and then mocking a YouTube influencer, particularly in the car content stuff. But it is what it is. But yeah, so that's why I'm not doing that stuff. I'm just doing regular entertainment topics. Sometimes some of it hits, sometimes it don't. All right. But sometimes you got to find your own niche. And I'm just trying to find my own niche. But I really do support all the people that are still subscribed to me, all the people that still watch my videos. I really do appreciate that. I also appreciate everyone that hit the like button and the notification bell. But a lot of things are going to be changing, and we'll talk about that at a later time and a later date. Okay. So I'm up out of here. I will talk to you guys later. Okay. Deuces, deuces, deuces.